Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here in June. I really welcome my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Hello, and welcome back to Big Mouth. And if you are feeling charitable, smash the subscribe button, smash the like button, and pop over to my Twitter at MoviesTVMad. And welcome to this Star Wars video. We are all Star Wars fans here. We all love Star Wars. We hate some of it. We love some of it. Some of us hate the prequels. Some of us love the prequels. I think all of us love the original trilogy. But what Lucasfilm, under the premise of Kennedy and Disney, have done is it's unbelievable. So let's discuss this situation with the Emperor, Palpatine, right? So we heard very early on within the marketing that Palpatine was returning. Now, this was supposed to get us all hyped, and I'm guilty. I didn't question anything that he died in Return of the Jedi. I just thought, I love this guy. I love Palpatine. Greatest villain ever. And as Rian Johnson killed off Snoke, J.J. Abrams had very, very little option. I mean, he could have kind of brought in a new villain, but would it have worked? It was easy marketing to bring back Palpatine. So in a way, I don't think it was an issue bringing him back, but you've got to bring him back in a proper fashion. You've got to explain how and what happened in Return of the Jedi. And in a moment, I'm going to explain what I would have done. Now, I understand people's arguments here. You know, if you bring Palpatine back to life properly, it undoes Darth Vader's sacrifice. I understand that. I was just excited that Palpatine was coming back, and I really didn't question it. And then I started to see a lot of people's videos and points on social media, and it's true, and I accept that. At the end of the day, if Palpatine isn't dead, then Darth Vader doesn't make that sacrifice. He doesn't, you know, he doesn't become, really, in a way, he doesn't go back to reverting as Anakin Skywalker, Luke's and Leia's father. And I get that. So what all the fuss is about all of a sudden is that there is a Rise of Skywalker novelization. And this film is obviously trying to escape doing a director's cut of Rise of Skywalker. There's a director's cut, but Disney don't really want to release it. But apparently it could happen. Listen, J.J. Abrams has been betrayed so many times since he joined Lucasfilm. So many times. I mean, he really should have been writing and directing each one of the trilogies. You do not have a trilogy and have a creative write and direct one film, a different creative write and direct the middle one, then a different creative writing and directing the third one. And for the people saying, but we had Kirshner, for those people who don't know the director, passed away about last year. Great director. I love seeing him on Empire of Dreams, the documentary. Such a great guy, and had a great love and respect for George Lucas. So you had Kirshner directing, and then you had, I forgot the guy's name, McCroyd or something, a Welsh director. Yes, we had two different directors, and we had George writing and directing the first Star Wars, A New Hope, right? But George and other creators wrote The Empire Strikes Back. The same people, George and another writer, I forgot his name now, right, also wrote the story for Empire Strikes Back. And they had two different directors, but they weren't composing the narrative. George was still composing the narrative for Empire and Jedi. So there's the difference. But how can you have three different effing writers for three different films in a cohesive trilogy that's supposed to be telling you the same story? You can't. It's not a TV show. This is a movie trilogy. This is Star Wars. So anyway, right, in this novelization, apparently people have been reading excerpts of it. It actually confirms that Palpatine is actually a clone. And it's actually Palpatine's Force ghost that goes inside this clone. Right? And this is how we were able to see Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker. Right, I don't have a problem with that. But here it is with me. If it isn't in the film, it hasn't happened. Now, when you look at the opening crawl, and Rise of Skywalker has the worst opening crawl in history. At first, I liked it when I did my review, but now I've changed my mind. It's awful, because what they try and do to avoid any extra scenes and explanations about Palpatine's return They literally tell you Palpatine's back, and that's that. They don't want to explain anything. He's just back. In the film, they don't explain anything. This is what I would have done, right? I would have had the opening crawl, not explaining Palpatine's, just kind of bridging the gap between Return of the Jedi and where the characters are now. And I would have left it at that, right? Then, after the opening crawl, I would have re-shown the scene in Return of the Jedi when Darth Vader saves his son Luke and lifts Palpatine up and chucks him in whatever he chucks him, right? So then what we see the rise of Palpatine's Force Ghost. And then we see this lab of so many clones of Palpatine. Then we see the Force Ghost going one of the clones, then he rises. And then, you know why he's back. It makes sense. Darth Vader still did what he did. He still stopped him for that moment. It's fine, as far as I'm concerned. But by doing what they did was so lazy. And I don't blame JJ for this. I blame Disney. I blame Kathleen Kennedy. He wants to tell a good story. He does. But the film, not the film, the trilogy was a mess by then. I bet none of you who hate the prequels thought we could ever fall lower than the prequels. I love the prequels because I understand what George is trying to do with them. He's not only trying to tell us a kind of Star Wars trilogy story and explain how Darth Vader becomes Darth Vader. He's trying to introduce a new generation to Star Wars. That's why Jake Lloyd played Anakin as a young boy, to inspire young children to watch Star Wars. It was part of his plan. So I get the trilogy, and I think Revenge of the Sith, especially, is an amazing movie. And Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor were amazing. Again, especially in their interactions in Revenge of the Sith. So I love the prequels. I won't hear anything said about them. But if you don't like them, that's cool. And who am I to tell you what's right and what's wrong at the end of the day? But that's just my opinion. So that's what I would have done with the Emperor Palpatine return. But the thing is, we should never have got to that, right? We should have had a cohesive trilogy with a plan from the very beginning. And we didn't get that. And even when I listen to the fandom menace speaking, they don't talk. They don't criticise constructively. They just want to cause a conversation and an argument. Oh, we hate Star Wars because they cast people of colour and the lead is a woman, right? But I'm trying to talk about things cohesively. I want to criticise constructively. What should have happened, and we all know what should have happened, right? If it was J.J. Abrams they wanted, J.J. Abrams should have constructed a proper story. Now, we all know how George was treated by Iger. George wanted his 7, 8 and 9 episodes to be integrated. His story for the finale of the Skywalker saga. Now, the reason, and I understand this to a point, why Disney didn't want Lucas involved was because a lot of Star Wars fans despised George Lucas for the prequels. Again, not me. So getting George back involved with his story in a new Star Wars trilogy would have muddied the waters. So I understand why publicly they wanted to show he wasn't involved. Now, what I would have done, and I would have talked to George about this, I would say, listen, George, if we publicly state that you're involved, then we're going to have a problem. What I would have said is, you know what, George? Give your story to JJ, let him adapt it, sit down with him, and is it all right with you that if we just keep your involvement quiet? I mean, you're not part of Lucas. You've got shares in Disney, I get it. We want to be faithful to your vision because you are Star Wars, but we don't want to publicise this because there's a lot of people who have a lot of bad feeling with what you did to the prequels. And that's the very reason why you sold Lucasfilm, George. So you know that already. So if George would have agreed, and I don't know if this was put to him, that's what I would have done. So I would have had him and JJ rewrite everything and kind of adapt George's idea together without anybody knowing, right? No one would have known. No one would have known. And basically, or if they wanted to publicly state George's involvement as a consultant on the end credits, that's fine. That should have happened. And then JJ should have been part of the Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker, right? Then you do that. Now, the Phantom Menace would have been ready to pounce. But because JJ would have been constructing the Last Jedi, we wouldn't have had the problems we did with Rian Johnson. I'll be clear about Rian. The Last Jedi isn't his fault. He was told he could do whatever the F he liked with that film. That's the middle part of a trilogy. Make it your own. Don't worry about what JJ set up. This proves that Kathleen Kennedy doesn't know what she's doing. I have nothing personally against Kathleen, but the facts are there. And with this book being released and this excerpt being released, with them trying to fix things without actually releasing a director's cut, it just proves what a mess Lucasfilm's still in. The Mandalorian is brilliant, but 2 more Star Wars shows, the Obi-Wan Kenobi one and the Cassian Andor, have both been delayed in production. Again, it proves they know nothing of what they're doing. They've pushed forward the release of The Mandalorian Season 2, right, on Disney Plus because they don't have any more Star Wars content to show apart from Clone Wars, an animated series, which is the final series. I love Clone Wars, right? But it isn't enough. So Star Wars is in an absolute mess. Not because they cast Daisy Ridley as Rey, not because Rey is front and centre and she's the new era of this Star Wars trilogy. None of that. But we could have avoided this. Now, I don't know what George's plan was for his 7, 8 and 9. And if there was a female lead, and I don't care that there's a female there. I actually love Daisy Ridley. I actually like Rey. I find Rey a really likeable character. But you gave these sexists and these misogynists an excuse to destroy what you were doing. Not that they had to destroy what you were doing. You did it all on your own. But what a shame that people in charge of Lucasfilm, people a part of Disney, who have got the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But we all know why that's successful, because of Feige. And because Feige hasn't allowed Disney any involvement in the running and the production of that saga. All of a sudden, they're getting involved now in this new era. See how that falls apart as well. Feige will soon resign. Come to DC, Feige. We'll welcome you with open arms. But I want to know what you think about the calamity that is the sequel trilogy and Star Wars under Disney and Lucasfilm. In fact, should it even be called Lucasfilm? Because George Lucas has nothing to do with this car crash. More Star Wars videos to come in the future. See you again soon.